Well, welcome to another episode Out of the Blank podcast. I'm here with Parker Russo.
Yes, sir.
Parker,
It's good to be here, man.
Tell me a little bit about yourself, man.
Well, I born and raised in good old-fashioned New Jersey, everyone's favorite state. Went to school down in New Orleans, and that's where I met my buddy Brendan, and he and I have started this little sketch comedy gig that we're working on these days, and I'm living in New York. He's living in Boston. We make it work, long-distance relationships.
Yeah, gotta make it work. I have one question for you, though, on the Jersey thing.
Yeah, please. And I'm sure you have many questions, but let's start with one.
I'm in Ocean City, Maryland, so I get a lot of people coming from New Jersey. Is it true it's illegal to pump your own gas?
It is. It absolutely is. Yeah, that's one of the first things that takes everyone by surprise when they first come in.
Why?
I guess they just don't trust us over there, They just don't think that we can handle it.
I was like, because some woman was like, how do I do this? I was like, what? She's like, I'm from Jersey. We don't pump our own gas. And I was like, out of everything in the world, that just completely like a left hook to the face. I was like, hold on a second. What country is this?
Yeah, man, I don't know. I really, I get that question a lot, and there's really no explanation for it other than they just don't think we can handle it. They just don't have the trust in their people.
Is that going to be the next part of cancel culture because of the fact it's like having a servant?
It just might be, right? I mean, it's clearly a service that everyone can pretty much do themselves, right? We've learned that across the country. We've earned our right to pump our own damn gas.
Exactly. So you got to fight from like the America, like self-entitlement perspective where it's like, I have a right. To do even more work and let that guy sit down and drink an iced tea.
Right. Exactly. I mean, maybe it is. Maybe it's supposed to be like a luxury for us over there. We're up on our high horse, too good to pump my own gas, but
I don't know if it's just
man. Just could be a movement.
I've been scrolling on Facebook at like 2:00 in the morning too much or something, but I've been coming across like the weirdest shit I've ever seen in my entire life. Like people that are just like, if you ever seen an advertisement for that site, it's called wish.com or something like that.
Oh yeah.
There's gimp masks. There's all these things that they're trying to sell me. Like, you might be interested in this. And then I'm like,
right.
I'm interested in only seeing what else you have to offer. And then I click on it, and it's nothing like they were showing me in the advertisement. I saw a thing that was like clackers, little clacker things.
Yeah.
But they were shaped in the pair of testicles. So you clacked them and they were testicles. And I was like, that's funny. That'd be a good gag gift. And then you click on it and it's like, would you like to buy a Percy Jackson book? It's like, that's nothing like you advertised.
Right. They really hit you with the 1-2 switch. No, you don't need that. You don't need that. I'm all for the ball sack clappers, though. I'll tell you. That sounds great.
That's a great, that's a helpful.
I'd order 100 of those.
You'd order 100 of them.
I feel like it's a great little Zoom toy. What's your Zoom toy? Everyone that they're like tinkering with during these calls. You got anything like that? No,
I'm so into the conversation usually because my brain, I think if it had anything, I mean, maybe, hold on. No, I mean, I play with my toe a little bit sometimes. I like to wiggle it back and forth. You ever try and make them whisper where it's like you rub them together side to side? You try and make that noise like, no, they're clapping or they're snapping.
See, I don't think I have enough dexterity in my toes to manage that, unfortunately. I barely have enough dexterity in my whole body.
I'm about to say, are you one of those guys who'd be like, oh, but I can do this with my elbow, and then they put it behind their head, and you're like, okay. That's like being the guy that does backflips everywhere. It's like, hey, watch this. It's like, we're at a dinner. What are you doing?
I hate that guy. You're like secretly a little bit jealous, but
I can't tip you, but I can do a backflip. It's like,
your backflips are no good here.
Thanks. No shirt, no shoes, no backflips.
It's a one-trick pony, man. Those guys, like, they can hit a backflip, but like, I guarantee you, they can't like parallel park their own car.
I'm not gonna lie. I never thought I was gonna be good at parallel parking. The driving test scared the shit out of me. But then I just did it the other day. I had met a past guest of this podcast. He's from Pennsylvania, but he came to my town, and I was like, dude, well, we gotta hang out like before the 90 days. And he showed up, but he's like, I'm on First Street. And me knowing it's summertime in Ocean City, I'm like, there's going to be no place to park. I'm never going to get a spot in there. So I was like, all right, I'm going to have to park like 4 streets down. And there was a small spot. I'm in like a test car. And I'm like, I've never parked this car before. Let me try parallel parking it. First try, nailed it in there, got out of the car. I was like, woo! And some woman was like, that's a good parking job. I was like, I'll never be able to do that ever again.
Man, that reminds me, and sorry, Mom, if you hear this, but my driving test, I was in my mom's car, her big Beamer, and it gets to the parallel parking portion of the exam, and I'm like, shit, I have no idea, didn't prepare for this, no idea what to do. And so I just kind of do the little half turn, check the mirrors for half a second, and I just wing it. Not even really looking, just winging it, bam, perfect. Best parallel park I've probably ever done in my life. Totally just, it happened that way. It was meant to be. I was meant to get my license on that day. Never told my mom about that, but there was a very good chance I was going to just smash right into every obstacle that they had.
You were sitting in the car like, God, if you just help me out with this one, I won't ask for anything. All those times I asked for superpowers when I was a little kid was bullshit. This is what I really need help with. Like, because when I took my driving,
the next day you're asking again.
When I took my driving school, the guy was like, if you feel like you're already close enough to the curb and they ask you to get closer, just tell them, no, I'm fine here. And they'll just deduct you like a point or something. It's safer than hitting the curb and failing. I did everything perfect. That was the thing I sweated on. And when I was doing the parallel parking, I got, maybe about a size 12 shoe. That's a good size, right? I was that far away from the curb. And he was like, you want to move a little bit closer for me? And I said, no, I'm comfortable here. He said, okay. And then he deducted me some points. But what really scared me was the ending. When, there's a stop sign and then there's another stop sign. And I was like, do you want me to stop here? He's like, what would you do? And I was like, I don't know. I'm going to stop here because that's what I feel safe to do. And we're in the parking lot thing. So it's like, you didn't really need to stop if you've been driving for longer than 5 minutes. And I went to go park my car. And as I parked, he goes, congratulations, you passed. And then he hands me the paperwork and I get out of the car and I look, the white line is dead center in the middle of my car. I went between 2 spots like an asshole. And I just looked at him and he looked down, looked at me, and I had the paperwork in my hand. I just turned around and ran right inside. I was like, you're not fucking My dad was watching. He goes, when I saw you hit between 2 spots, I said, you're fucked. Like, I just knew it. I had my hands on my head. I looked over. I was like, we're getting the license. Let's go. I'm getting my picture taken, everything.
See, you proved that you were a safe driver. You're just a douchebag when it comes to parking. You're that guy in the lifted Hummer, taking up 2 spots. And he's allowed to drive still. He's just a dick.
It depends. Should more cars have butterfly doors? Because sometimes, like the test car I'm using, when I open up that car door, it is way bigger than my normal car's door. And it swings all the way out where I almost hit like multiple people's vehicles. I'm like, Jesus. Right. The guy's like, that's awfully close, man. I'm like, I don't know what to do. This car has doors that come out like, leaving the barn door open or some shit. I want a butterfly door so I don't have to worry about slapping anybody. The only thing you have to worry about is when that door uppercuts you in the face.
Right. Yeah, takes your neck off.
Trying to drive somebody else's car is like entering a spaceship for the first time. And everyone's like, well, you got to adjust your mirrors first. It's like, I need to fix the fucking seat. You got this thing too cranked up to where my knees are hitting the steering wheel. Like, I need to lean back and relax.
Oh, and don't even get me started on that's like the classic Uber issue, right? Trying to figure out the music. Never easy, ever. You get into someone's car, you got to hook up the Bluetooth to this. Oh, wait, are you still connected? Oh, wait, is he connected? Oh, wait, my mom is on here. Total shit show every time. By the time you finally get it sorted, you're already there.
I used to talk major trash on Uber until I did Uber Eats. And then I've had the weirdest experiences doing that in my entire life. Like every time I've done Uber Eats, I made money, but like, people would just invite me into their house. And I'm like, how fucking stoned are you to invite just your random Uber driver in your house? And they're like, well, you're giving us food, so you're like God. And it's like, I could never do the driving portion because I feel like you get rated on that too. Like people rate me doing Uber Eats or something. What's the worst I do? I fuck up your Denny's order? Like, I think that was the worst I had. I got a bad rating and I knew which one it was because when I hit the brakes, fucking all the pancakes and the whole thing went forward. I was like, well.
Oh, no.
That's a minus on that one.
Right, it's gonna be a 1 star. But you got to finish the order anyway, right? So then you're like handing the guy his food, fully well knowing that it's a total shit show.
Well, you're supposed to do like
What's that moment like?
you're supposed to do like one order at a time, and then I just sat there at Denny's and collected like 10 orders. So I just kept grabbing the stuff, and everybody's like, what the fuck, we're on the app too. I'm like, dude, I'm gonna make a bunch of money in a second. Then I do all the runs, I make like maybe $50, and then some guy just tips me $1. Like, that's gonna make my fucking day. Like, we're in the 80s.
Right.
Like, go get yourself a soda pop, and then flicks me a quarter. I'm like, well, thanks, Fonz, and then run off.
Yeah, that sounds about right. Yeah, what's the tip supposed to be like on those things? Because I think no one really knows. It's one of those kind of like gray areas. Like no one really knows what to tip the seamless guy, the delivery guy. Like what are you looking for?
It's different, I think, than a restaurant business, because doesn't need to be 20% on the factor of like you're doing it through an app, so there's no emotion connected to it. Like if you see a mother with like 5 kids barely struggling to keep a waitress job or whatever comes over and hands you a fucking cheesesteak, you're like, I gotta tip her more because she's struggling, obviously. But then you see like an Uber,
Right.
the dude could have no legs and he has to walk up 50 flight of freaking stairs to deliver your pancake or super slash morning combo breakfast with chocolate milks and shit, and you tip him $1 because there's no emotion behind the app.
Right. Oh yeah, there's a major disconnect, and the first time you're seeing the dude is when he's right there.
I think the main conclusion,
The waiters get to make you feel guilty throughout.
The main conclusion we can have is the fact that I think society is essentially flawed, and when it all boils down to it's Uber driving.
Yep. It's crazy, man.
There's nothing to
Fortunately,
say
there's
to
it's really not. Ubers these days they're becoming a different environment though with this whole thing. They're becoming more and more like taxis. You see that? They got plastic wrap in the back. It's like a DIY barrier that they're creating. Have you noticed that?
Yeah, they go to Marshall's and just decide to pick out all like that. I'm gonna bedazzle the back window. It's like, don't do
Right.
that. I'm not getting in your car if it's bedazzled. You're gonna murder me.
It's funny to see like the spectrum of like, some guys clearly went out and were like, all right, this is serious. Like I really got to secure and create kind of 2 different microclimates in my car here. And they really did it right. And other guys clearly went and got like saran wrap from the drawer and were like, oh shit, kind of put some like duct tape up and we're like, this will probably work. Meanwhile, the whole thing is flapping in the breeze.
I have a problem when your personality is weaker than what like you're showing people. Like, you ever meet the kid in middle school or like elementary school that has like this super bedazzled like best backpack in the world, and then you go and talk to them and they're just blank like a board? You're like, your backpack's cooler than you. I only want to hang out with you for your backpack. Like,
yeah, it's people expressing themselves through very trivial things to make up for their lackluster personality.
I actually came across you from the Instagram page. You do it's the Cream Team comedy, right?
That's right.
It reminded me a lot of the videos I used to make in high school. We had to do comm arts, like communication arts. This is gonna sound like a total like I'm throwing shade, but it's really a compliment. Funnest
video. Oh, that shit you're doing? Yeah, we did that in high school.
Funniest videos I ever made in my entire life, because it was like our teacher didn't really care and she was like, just have fun with it. I mean, there's a video like it was around the time the Jordan Belfort song became like super popular.
Mm-hmm.
So we did a video of it, and then like the first shot is me waking up with the song playing, like, oh, and then it's like it's just my bare ass, so I'm just naked. And it played in front of our whole class. And my teacher's like, what the fuck? And I'm just like we did Like a Boss music video where my buddy, it was like Chop Your Balls Off, that part of the song. He had a Ziploc bag with 2 little eggs in it. And he had like a saw and just cut it. And the eggs fell on the ground. But it was like so like understaffed and under production. So like it was just funny to fucking watch.
Definitely, man. I mean, you got to make that, right?
Even when you're making your videos, though, like, how do you usually come across like an idea for a video? Because I saw the workout one, and I work at a gym, so I'm like, that's spot on. That's 100%.
Right. Yeah, dude comes in and thinks he's Hercules like on day one. Honestly, like that's the biggest thing that kind of holds you back, right? Is because like a lot of the ideas that we have would be like, God, that would be like absolutely hilarious. And you got the whole thing kind of playing out in your mind. And then you take a step back and you go, well, do we have $1 million budget? No. Can we afford any of the things that we need for that video? Definitely not. So that one's right out, you know? So you kind of find that perfect balance of something that you can do that's funny, that's relatable. So something that you can do, you know, with $100, $50. You know, you got to set your realistic expectations. Um, and I think it's very possible, like you're saying. You know, sometimes I think, you know, you need it to be high production value, but it doesn't need to be shot in a beautiful studio. You know, you can make funny videos in high school. It's just really all about like the content for us. Like I think if you have a funny idea and you execute it well, I think people are more willing to look past your, you know, oh, that shot's a little blurry. The audio's not, you know, as long as your core idea is strong, I think it rings true. So I think that's kind of been our mantra far, until buying $5,000 cameras and shit like that, you know, got to do with what.
In my comm arts class, we just use crappy HD, the True Vision ones, like the $50
Right.
camcorder ones you would have at home for like AFV. But like
Mm-hmm.
we only really notice when you're editing is the factors like when you are editing it, you notice the flaws, but then when it all kind of comes
Right.
together, it's just a fun experience to have. Like I did one, it was supposed to be like the Black Ops Replacer trailer where the guy gets out of the car and he's
Yeah.
like, you know what it's like to play Black Ops, and it's like that. But it's me and I get out of the car and it's like I'm in my buddy's Mustang and it's one of the big bulky GTs, not the GTs,
Right.
it's like a 2005, like the huge ass ones with the big doors we're fucking talking
Right.
about. And I get out of the car and you just see my small feet hit the ground first, and then I get out of this car, but the seat's so low, like me trying to get out of it was like me trying to, like the end of 128 hours or 27 hours where he's getting out of the rocks.
Right.
It was like that,
Right.
like climbing out of this thing, and I get out, and then I have this big jacket on, and I'm like, I just, shuffle it forward like a boss, and then like, but it was so windy, and I had really long curly hair, so my hair was blowing all over the place because I was in a freaking tornado, and I just go, you know what it's like to watch the morning announcements, but you couldn't hear shit because the wind was so bad, so I just threw on AC/DC and I just let the thing go. And the funniest part was the drive away, where it was like me talking for 10 seconds, like, you're not cool unless you want to watch the morning announcements. And then it's supposed to be me driving off. Well, it just snowed in town. So, like, the snow had melted, but frost was still there. So, like, there's icicles
Mm.
hanging from the back of his car, but no fucking snow around. So everyone's like, what did they do to his car? Like,
Right. What is that? Yeah, I mean, that's absolutely like, I feel like the editing process is where you really like create the video, right? Like you have like so many ideas of what it's going to be, and then you actually like sit down and create it, and you're like, oh wait, that idea is total shit, and that's not going to work at all. Like the footage that we have doesn't even come close to what we were thinking, and so you kind of completely have to do the whole storyline again. Or it's like you're saying, you getting out of that car was funnier than half the shit that we actually filmed, and so let's just like highlight that. And so I think the video often ends up getting overtaken by like 2 or 3 silly moments that oftentimes we're not even during the shoot. And that kind of becomes like the crux of your whole performance,
Yeah. We had to remake a scene from Step Brothers. It was the Hulk cans thing. And the only really super funny part about it was like, I mean, the scene was good. Like if you like Step Brothers and all, it was like amateurly done.
Right.
But it was the fact of my dog just came into the middle of it and started taking a shit. So then my buddy that's filming like couldn't stop laughing. So he just kept zooming in on my dog taking a shit. So like that was where our A came from. I'm like, dude, you're missing the scene. He's like, dude, there was important shit going on. Like
Right. This
literally.
is better.
How hard has it have been for you, I would say, to steer away from the whole mass situation? Like you could easily make so many jokes about that.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of a push. Like, I feel like my partner, Brendan, is very much like more in the, like, let's push it. Like, let's push it. Like, let's make jokes about shit that, like wants to get into some political stuff, wants to do this, that, the other thing. And I'm a little like hesitant about kind of stepping on any toes at first, because it is the internet trolls fuck your whole day up.
Yeah.
So really trying to kind of, for me, I'm kind of trying to do stuff that's a little bit more mass appeal at first, a little bit more like everyone gets that. Like, you don't need to live in XYZ place. You don't need to know about XYZ thing. Like, everyone knows some guy who works out once and thinks that he's Hulk Hogan, right?
Yeah.
So trying to kind of stay away from that stuff. And I also think that those kind of jokes and those kind of videos might play well really right now, but fast forward 6 months, it's not going to be relevant. And trying to kind of create a line of stuff that can kind of last a long time, stuff that's like almost like what South Park has done. Like South Park they make topical stuff, but it's also, you could watch like a 10-year-old episode and it's like, okay, yeah, that's still. So I think it's all about like finding that balance.
If you look at Two and a Half Men, for instance, like that was always one of my favorite shows as a kid. But if you watch like the older ones now, you're like, oh, I remember that. But some kid that's randomly coming across it is not going to understand a single joke about that or anything. And honestly,
right.
comedy has been watered down a lot, but I think it's coming back in the aspect of, I think we've canceled way too much shit to the point where it's gone the complete opposite, where now everybody's like, I don't care anymore. Anything I can do. If I fucking fart, it's a cancel. I'm done with it. It's against people with gastroenteritis or whatever, And I'm like, that's what it's going to get to, because the past couple of years, comedy has gotten to this point where I'm like, the only safe jokes to crack are ones about yourself. Like every stand-up comedian, like, I had this happen and then I got divorced, and then everybody's laughing at them because you can crack jokes on yourself. But then if you ever see Dave Chappelle's comedy special, Sticks and Stones.
Yeah.
That was one of the best comedy specials, but it got a lot of blowback from a lot of communities because he just threw shade at everything that was ridiculous about what we're doing. In the first 5 minutes, he's making fun of the audience. He goes, I'm about to do an impression. Guess who this is? Guess what? If you ever do anything in your life, I'll fucking ruin you. He goes, that's you. And he points to the audience and they're all laughing and clapping. And I'm like, yo, he's literally insulting the audience and they don't even know.
Right. You guys have no idea.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think you're spot on. And I think the whole cancel culture thing is definitely becoming increasingly a bit of an issue, I think. But I also think that, if I was Dave Chappelle, I'd feel a lot more comfortable, coming out and making some really radical jokes and really like shitting all over everyone, because I'm fucking Dave Chappelle. And yeah, I'm already famous. Y'all already know me. I'm already here. Whereas someone who's like more starting out, for you to come out guns a-blazing and be like shitting all over like things that people really like hold dear, you're going to fuck those people over and those people are going to hate you forever. Like you're not in good position with them as it is, So you're just like, just getting rid of them right out of the get-go, which is like,
that's literally what I'm like hinting at with like your workout video stuff. Like imagine if an army of CrossFitters just came across it and was like, this son of a bitch is calling us out. And it's like,
giving us a bad name.
Well, it's like you don't want to ruin the CrossFit community. You know how hard they work on their 30-pack abs?
Exactly. No, you don't want to fuck with those guys.
I'm just like,
they'll beat you up.
Isn't the point of life to laugh? Like if you look at a movie like in 2008, Don't Mess with the Zohan. That movie could never be played today. And honestly, it's like with Robert Downey Jr., where he kind of talked about like he was so happy that he didn't get like any hate towards him for the blackface in Tropic Thunder, even though that's probably the last time ever. And Don't Mess with the Zohan, nobody even thinks of Dave Matthews as the racist redneck that wants to blow up everybody and hates puppies. Like that didn't even come to your mind because the movie hit at a time period where like you get to see the whole shift. Like I was watching it, I was like, wow, this is so ridiculously stereotypical that it couldn't be played today, but you weren't going to take it serious because honestly, they're more making fun of themselves with how dumb they're thinking.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I think generally you should be safe if you're making fun of yourself, but it seems like these days no one is safe. The whole thing is really, I mean, we've even gotten a couple, messages even from our videos, which are not even really like in our minds pushing the boundaries nearly as much as we'd like to. We've gotten some blowback already. People are like, I think one thing that people don't like is we tag Barstool in some of our videos, just because it's like, you know, we think that they might like it. Who knows? Maybe you'll get a share from someone, you know. And people really like, we've gotten a couple blowbacks like, oh, like you're like standing with Barstool, you know, they're a bad company, like those guys, like, you know, they're misogynists and all that. And it's like, first of all, me tagging them in the video is not me aligning with their views. That's not me saying like, oh yeah, like I agree with everything that Barstool is doing, you know. But
I don't
you
know the
can't even
whole
do that.
Barstool thing. I just know that they talk shit on Domino's Pizza one time, and I was like, "That's the best fucking pizza." Like, what are you talking about? Like,
They talk shit on pretty much everything, and you know, they're just under the microscope right now, just like everyone else, just because, you know, they've
well,
sent
it's
out some
like
questionable tweets and
you
whatever.
can get famous off of love, or you can get famous off of hate, where people just want to hate you and talk about you. I know so many people like that are just starting doing a podcast or starting doing anything, and they want to be famous by just saying the worst outrageous stuff. And I'm like, that's why my show uses your real name, so I don't have Parker coming on my show and going like, you know what I fucking hate. I hate everyone and I love Trump. And I'm like, oh, don't say
Right.
that because you're
Oh
gonna anger
shit.
people. Like that's
Right.
that's the opposite of how everybody's thinking. But like there's shit in life that's funny, and the whole point is it's a joke. Now with some serious stuff is like if you want to go down, like people are always like, I never want to talk politics. I'm like, I wouldn't either, because Joe Biden's like, why did they vote for me? Because I'm black. And it's like, wait, what did you just say? Did anybody see that? Whatever he said. Like
No, you don't want to step on any landmines, right? But like the more you try to traverse carefully, the more like, I don't know, it's like you become overly cautious and then you end up stepping on something regardless. Like, is
I
it
feel
better to just lean in and say fuck it?
there's only three people in the world I feel like could never be canceled. One would be Joe Rogan. Two
Yep.
would be probably, I don't know, who's like a really good person that couldn't be canceled. Gandhi? Can Gandhi be canceled?
Yeah. I don't know. Can Gandhi be canceled?
I fucking hate
You
his no
know,
eating diet. It's
yeah, fuck
bullshit.
that guy. Oh, you like Gandhi? You fucking kidding me?
All right.
Yeah, I think Gandhi's pretty safe. I feel like Gandhi's definitely in there.
Then the third would have to be Gary Busey, because I feel like if you're taking anything he says to heart, you might have something wrong with you, because that guy says the most outrageous shit. Mostly because you can't understand it. It's like trying to watch a kid open up like something for the first time and they don't know how to figure it out. Like they're spending 2 hours opening up a jar of pickles and you're sitting there like, God,
Right.
somebody help this poor kid.
Please. How about Bobby Flay? I feel like everyone loves Bobby Flay, but he might have a sex scandal in there somewhere that no one knows about yet.
Oh,
I could see that for him.
this is a fun game I like to play. So I've gotten bad feelings about people where I've called it before it's happened, like the Bill Cosby
Okay.
thing. So, okay. So I'm going to have to shout this out. There's a person on Instagram and their page is Bill Cosby didn't do it. I don't know who the hell it
Oh
is,
boy.
but I'm looking at it. He's like, how could you, but their thing was, I'm trying to help wrongly convicted people get out. And let's start with the grandfather of comedy. And I'm like, that's a serious topic, because that's something I'm interested in. Is I want to see
Right.
all the things that were wrongly convicted. I think it's a lot of it's just misunderstood, and a lot of it's just like, fault of the system. But fucking it
Right.
was, he agreed to it, like he did it.
Right.
Like I
Right.
don't
That's
understand
not
what's
one that's
wrong.
like, that one's pretty in the books. Like, I think we're all pretty like happy and satisfied with the outcome of that one. I think we're all on the same page there.
Literally get to see like how he had, I guess it was glaucoma where his eye was turning white. It's like that's all the evil that was going into his eye. It was just being funneled
Right.
in there, all the hate and shit. He literally ended up like a James Bond or 007 character. And don't get me wrong, anybody listening that gets offended I just said that about Bill Cosby, I have his comedy album on my wall, but at the same time, even back then I'm looking at his face where he's smiling, I'm like, you're hiding so much evil that the world doesn't know about yet.
Yeah, man. It's kind of crazy, right? And it makes you think like who else out there that like, you know, is Gandhi like a sex predator?
Mr. Rogers, listen to me when I say this. I've been calling this since episode like 200 something. So I've been saying this for a long time, and everybody's like, that's ridiculous. I swear to God, I think Joe Rogan is listening to me because I listened to his most recent episode. He goes, imagine if Mr. Rogers was a bad guy. And I'm like, are you fucking listening to my shit?
I call that shit.
Like, there's been 5 scenarios where he's literally said something I've said in the past. And I'm like, what? Like the whole fact of how we're replacing or empathy with sympathy. Everybody just wants to feel bad for everybody instead of understanding and all this stuff. He mentioned that on his recent episode. I'm like, dude, you're listening to my shit, bro. Like, imagine if he just comes out like, hey, man, love the podcast. Great ideas. I'm like, you son of a bitch.
Right. You motherfucker. I could see him being the kind of guy, though, that would just, not that he's like, I don't know how this is going to come across, but I could see him listening to like a bunch of podcasts and just being like, oh, yeah, that's good. Oh, yeah, that's good. Oh, yeah, that's good. And then I'm not going to say anything to any of them. I'm just going to like kind of hide in the tall grass.
It's
get a little bit here, get a little bit here.
It's where we get the information. I listened to like a history podcast and they could have got a billion things wrong. And next thing I know, I'm spouting off knowledge like it's this universal fountain.
That's the internet, man. No one has any idea what the hell they're talking about, but everyone's listening.
It evolved from Wikipedia where you could just edit shit.
Oh, that was a crazy revelation. Like I remember, I feel like everyone's had that moment. This might, you might roll your eyes and be like, shit, what the hell are you talking about? I always knew that. But I remember like legitimately thinking Wikipedia was like a real source of information for a minute. And that moment that you learn like, oh no, actually like any jackass can come on here and write whatever the fuck they want. Like that was a big moment. That's like, oh shit. So this is like all bullshit then is what you're telling me.
It's like the
like
moment
nothing on here is reliable.
It's the moment I realized Craigslist wasn't just selling like random things. They were also selling services like a dude that'll come to your house and punch you in the nuts.
Like I remember one of my buddies got us with this. This is like the oldest trick in the book too. But one of my buddies got us with this one. He convinced us that seltzer was invented by a Greek man in the 1800s by the name of Arturo Seltzeros. And he puts us in the group chat. He's like, fun fact of the day. And we're all like, Arturo Seltzeros. Like, that's outrageous. Like, that couldn't be true. He sends us the Wikipedia screenshot of it. Everyone's like, oh, shit. Can you believe that? Arturo Seltzeros. There it is. It's right there. Oldest trick in the book, man. He obviously edited not 2 minutes earlier.
That's what I'm saying.
Like,
what's real?
This is 2020.
What's real and what's not real? If you literally look at everything in history books that's written by somebody, how much information has gotten wrong? Like for a long time in our history, we thought that fat was bad. If you ate fat, you were going to be fat. Then you realize it's a lie by the sugar industry. And then 10 years later, they go the other way with it. And it's like every 10 years, something comes out that proves the other thing wrong. Like, what's to believe? I don't know. Fear, false evidence appearing real. Is that a real thing? Or does it mean finger eating every rabbit? I don't know.
Like that could be the next trend, man. You really never know. And there was paleo. Then they were like, oh, eat all the vegetables. Oh, well, don't eat too much. Oh, fish is good for you. Well, sometimes it has chemicals. Like, what the hell is it? What should I fucking do?
From a person that has eaten a can of tuna every day for the past 8 years and has mercury poisoning, I can tell you right now, I'm functioning fine. Sometimes my ears go out and I can't hear anything and I get scared for a little while. Like I was in a podcast and their mic cut out for a good 30 minutes. And I'm sitting there like, did I just go deaf? And I'm checking I'm checking myself, and they're like giving me this, 1 second, I got to fix it. And I know it's their error, but I'm sitting there for a minute straight, oh my God, did I go deaf? I can't hear anything. There's no noise going on in my house. And then next thing I know, I'm hearing myself talk and I'm like, oh, I must be able to still hear. And they're like, hey, we're back. I'm like, thank God, dude. You don't know. That was when you figure out that.
You don't know where I've been.
Yeah. I was in a whole separate anxiety attack.
That's wild, man. I mean, that was I don't know if you've had the pleasure of having the coronavirus yet. I don't know if you're cool enough to have that yet. But I was
apparently have either had it or I just am immune to it, because they said when I took the test, they're like, you got the whatever the antibodies. I was like, how? I was
beautiful.
I've never been super sick before. They're like, well, some people just can't get it. I'm like, so do I have to go to India to get that one then?
Right. Yeah. How do I get it though? How do I get on to the next one? I'm trying to not work for a week.
It's like a mom tattoo. Like everybody wants one, but doesn't want to show it off.
Right. But you just want to have it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was one of the first. I got it way before it was cool. And I didn't really have any symptoms, but the only thing that happened is I lost my sense of smell, like, entirely. And it was one of those things where every morning I'd wake up and like I'd kind of like rummage around the house, like just like looking for shit to smell, like garlic powder, nothing. Like a little bit of leftover weed, nothing there. Like, anything that you got. And it was a good 2 weeks. I couldn't smell anything. And I'll tell you, it's a crazy sensation, like can't taste anything. Food is like essentially become nothing.
Can you?
It's
Wait,
like,
can
what
you
is there to
smell
live
now?
for anymore? Honestly, it's still like coming back very slowly. Like I can't smell like I used to. I don't know what the hell that means, but I can't smell like I used to.
I want you to run out into your front lawn, look for like a neighbor that has a dog, and then just start finding piles of shit to sniff, like the movie Dewey Cox, where you sniff that shit. Oh god, so
Yeah.
good.
It's just like all kind of comes back to me in one fell swoop.
See, I'm
The power
okay
of the
with
shit.
like maybe losing my sense of smell would suck because like honestly, this morning I was driving and I had the windows down and I just smelled like this car go by. I don't know if it was the fumes from the car or the guy was packing a giant ass hammer, but I started smelling dip. And I was like, that takes
Oh,
me back to like, going on a road trip to like a concert or something. And the guy who always drove was always packing hammers the whole freaking trip. So you just
oh
smelled
boy.
skull throughout the car. And so I was like,
Oof.
that was a good memory. It was a good little throwback for me, a little flashback and nostalgia. But then I'm
Right.
like, what out there would I want to miss the most? And I'm like, it'd probably be my sense of touch because I feel like if I couldn't like feel things, that would just be
Oh
like,
my God.
damn, I'm just numb to the world.
You think sense of touch over sense of sight?
I would
Sense
take,
of sight for me is like critical.
yeah, but I
Can
don't
you
know.
imagine not being able to see? It's like one of my greatest fears. It just sounds absolutely horrifying.
So I'm going to ask you, what's your nightmare?
What is my nightmare?
Like, have you had one that specifically stands out? Because I remember what you just said about not being able to see. I had a dream where like
Yeah.
I was completely blind and like the whole dream there was nothing to fucking see. It was like you're just staring at your eyelids. And I was like, am I asleep? Hang on a
Oh.
second. But like when you close your eyes, you just wait for it to come. Like that whole
Right.
awkward
Right.
5 minutes or so. Uh but
Right.
I had somebody that was walking me through everywhere in this giant city. So you're just hearing car horns and all these things. And I'm like, imagine
Right.
if I woke up and I was blind and then I really freaked out. Like it got bad.
Yeah. See, that would, like, especially in the city. Yeah. It just seems like it would be sensory overload. Like all the noises. Like I see. I live in New York City, so I see blind people walking around all the time, and it honestly like blows me away. Like their ability to like still like make it around and like fully function. It's like incredible to me. Like I can't even imagine
Do you
what
ever
that is
do you
like.
ever test them by like throwing something at them?
No, but this is going to sound terrible, but I did see a guy. I'm on like the sixth story and I'm like looking out the window and there's like a bunch of scaffolding, classic New York. There's always fucking scaffolding everywhere and they're not actually doing anything. They just like to put it up. But this guy, I see him kind of going into this kind of dead end and I'm like, uh-oh, like how is he going to find his way out of there? 5 seconds, he's out. Like surrounded like on all 270 degrees scaffolding. Dude just like dink, 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 turns all the way around and back the other way he was going. Incredible. And I was like, oh fuck, like it kind of just rocked my world because I was like, I don't care like how long this dude has been blind, maybe even since birth, but like there's no way that he's going to be able to traverse this easily. Totally nailed it.
He's
Like
fucking
shit.
Daredevil, dude. You just met
Fucking
Daredevil.
Daredevil, dude. Yeah. Seriously. And I really was like, wow, damn, all right, like I don't know, like if I was blind, would I ever get to like that level where I could like handle it like that? I just don't know if I could. I don't think I have it in me.
The weirdest thing I've ever seen is I saw a blind guy at a store and I asked him, I was like, how often do you like people get like you get treated differently because you can't see? And he goes, honestly, the worst thing I hate is people talk to me like I'm a fucking baby or a dog. And I was like, what? He's like, I'm not an idiot. I just can't fucking see. And they talk to me in like
Right.
this oh, do you need some help? And he's like, it's so like, especially when your hearing's amplified, it's just the worst thing in the
Right.
world. And I'm like, wow, I
Oh
never even
God.
thought of that. Like, should I just stop being nice to people like in wheelchairs or have like a severe disability?
Right.
He goes, no, don't do that. Just don't treat us like we're two. And I was like, oh, okay. I was like, you want me to hold the
Right.
door open for you? He's like, what door? I'm like, oh, I forgot you're blind.
Yeah, I can see that, man. I can definitely see that. Like, I don't what is up with that? Like the baby voice that people put on. Like, I was noticing that my mom got a new dog that I went and visited her this last weekend, and I'm like playing around with the dog. And maybe it's different for pets, but like instantly, like first words out of my mouth to the dog, it's just like, ooh, doo, doo, doo. You like get into that other like weird alter ego. Like, who the fuck is that? Why are you talking like that? Why do we feel the need to like speak in this baby voice?
So a lot has changed from when I was 10 years old. But when I was 10, and this is all going to lead up to something in a second, just hang on. So when I was 10, I did an experiment on my dog. And it was like, are they hearing actual words being said? Or are they just hearing tones? And whatever tone you
Right.
do that goes with that word, they just remember it and remember that's what it means. So my
Right.
dog's name was Rio. And instead of being like, like, oh, who's a good Rio? Do that. I would just be like, and I would just make the noise with my mouth instead of saying the
Right.
actual word. And she responded. And I'm like, wow, like this is a whole revelation. They're just hearing tones. And then my mom was like, no, it's because our dog's inbred and she's basically deaf and blind. I'm like, oh, that's what it is. Like her brain's just not working in the first place. But I tried it on multiple dogs to see if it would work. Like if that noise is, they just respond to high frequencies. So if you start speaking in a high
Right.
frequency, I think that's why our brain does it. It's like they're so cute.
You
And
just kind of go
anytime
there.
we correlate cute with anything, it's got to be high pitch.
Right. Yeah, it's very strange. It's very strange. There might be a video in there somewhere. Who knows?
That's the next
Who
video
knows?
for the cream team.
Could be, man. Could be. You never know what might hit you. It's at all, any and all times.
Why cream team?
So, so Brendan and I went to school together at Tulane in New Orleans, and we were the self-proclaimed beer pong champions of Tulane. Not at all true, whatsoever. But we thought we were hot shit, and we were not nearly as cool as that title may imply. But so we would enter these like, fraternity tournaments and like, we're always playing beer pong, and that was our team, and we were the dream team. And one day some guy's like, up next to play or whatever, and he's like, I guess we're playing the cream team. Like, who the fuck is that? And someone had like raced like part of, the D on the board. And we're like, oh, I guess that's us. And they were like, where the hell did cream team come from? We're like, you just came up with that. Like just now.
Your
But we like that a
catchphrase
hell of a
should
lot
have
better.
your catchphrase should have been who wants a pap smear? That's what it should have been. All about the cream.
Exactly, man. Get creamed on.
See, what I thought was so funny about that was I used to Walmart has so it's actually from two things. One, I go down to the candle aisle in Walmart and there was one called buttercream frosting and I was like that was my nickname in high school. And then there's another one there was a drink, it's cream soda. And I would drink it all the time. And all my buddies were like, well, you having cream soda? Like, I'll come over and do a podcast. You got cream soda. And I was like, yeah. So then when they invited me to play Dungeons and Dragons for one time, which I ended up not doing, I had to set up an account online. And I was like, Lord of the Cream. And then everyone's like,
there you go.
It's Rob. It's Rob. I'm like, yeah. I'm like, honestly, if you name your kid cream soda, is that so bad compared to a lot of the names out there?
No, please. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if Kanye West's next son was named Cream Soda. At the rate he's going.
I don't think he's going to be having kids for a while.
Yeah, he very well may not.
Look, I can't talk shit on Kim Kardashian because I found out that she helps get wrongly convicted prisoners out. So I was like, wow, you're doing something really good, but nobody can take you seriously because your ass is filled with implants.
Right. Your ass is bigger than my head. Probably twice as big, honestly.
One cheek is your head.
Yeah, I think that's probably about the ratio. That's at least how I'm kind of picturing it.
You should do a video where it's like what happens when you hit fame, and it's like the happy years, and it's like the first couple of years, and then what it becomes into where you're just like shaving half your head. Like nobody brings up Britney
Right.
Spears. Like that was a huge thing. She went nuts, and she's still kind of nuts.
Yeah, but we've kind of forgotten about that for some reason. She kind of got a pass. Now
So
she's like trying to come back into relevance. And it's like, yeah, remember the whole like marijuana? Was that marijuana? What was the whole thing? She was like shaving her head to avoid a drug test or something like that.
I
Is
have
that what
no
that
clue.
was?
I just know how many people made fun of it, and then I see her now, and it's like you're watching someone with like a severe mental issue try and come back into the world, and you're like,
Right.
oh man, so much. She needs like,
Ugh.
is it okay to go away for a little while, like a retreat,
Right.
never be heard
It's
from again or something?
yeah, I mean, I definitely would have pegged her to be one that just kind of faded away into the darkness and just like, yep, never hear from her again. She's got her house on the hills, probably. I don't know. And that's it, on to the next thing. But no, she's coming back.
You have to admit the best show was her sister Zoe 101.
Oh, yeah, definitely. We all had a crush on her growing up. Please, come
I
on.
thought that's what college was like. And then you realize you go to college, and I went to like one where you didn't have to stay on campus. So I was like, this is not anything. I was expecting kids getting their hands stuck in vending machines. And, there was the smart chick. There was the weird, awkward guy. There was the dude with the yacht money. Like, you look like you have yacht money, honestly. Like, by staring at
Me?
you. Yes.
Like, oh. I wish I had yacht money, man.
I see.
I live on Avenue D in New York City, so it's not exactly yacht money. I live about as deep in New York as you could possibly be.
Wait, Avenue D?
Yeah, most people don't know that it goes that far, but yeah, it goes that far.
I was about to say, do you
Yeah.
crack jokes like I'm on Avenue D, and some chicks like, are you trying to hit on me? You're like, no, seriously, come to the D. It's like, oh,
No,
you really
please.
can't
That's
get
where I
laid.
live. Avenue D. Just like go until you think you can't go any further and go like 3 more avenues and you'll hit my house.
I'm like
Yeah,
talking to a
we're way over
corona
there.
survivor. Like, I wonder if that's going to be the trend to actually get corona now.
Oh, dude. We were in we were in New York for all of it. We were in the eye of the fucking hurricane, man. Andrew Cuomo was my god. When he came on and talked about the coronavirus every morning, it was like everyone shut the fuck up. Like Andrew Cuomo was on. This is huge.
I
That was
looked.
my life, man.
I
It
saw
fucking
the.
sucked.
I saw the pictures of it, and then I got a new perspective when I found out that people who traveled out of the country couldn't get back into the country. And I was like,
Yeah.
wow, imagine being like broke as shit, traveling on like a couple $100s or something to get you through that 2 weeks. And then you got your plane ticket back home and you can't get back home. Like, do people just help you out, or do you just have to sign a fucking lease in Ireland?
Right. Yeah. What the hell are you supposed to do? Seriously. Just like, oh, I guess I live here now.
Like, imagine going to a country for a day where you hate it after like a day, and you have to stay there till coronavirus is over, and it's been 6 months now where you're like, fuck, I can't eat another schnitzel. I can't do it.
If I have to eat one more fucking schnitzel, well, the beer steins I can handle, but the schnitzel, that's where I draw the fucking line.
Imagine
I
being
can't fucking do it anymore.
the one guy at Beer Fest with a gluten allergy where you're just fucked.
Do they casually drink out of those boots, or is that like something that's like just on TV?
I think that
Is
was
anyone
just
doing that like throughout the year?
Beer Fest. But what I really got scared of was when I saw on social media, Instagram, I would say, recently, is a person that posted that they had a nut allergy, gluten-free, all these, everything. And I was like, what do you fucking eat? Like air? Like everything. And she was like, well, I
That
can
is
eat
terrible.
certain assorted jams. And I'm like, so you just eat jam all day long? Like, I've seen My Strange Addictions
That's
where like
great.
somebody's just eating toilet paper or couch sofa, like the stuff they stuff couches with. Somehow they're getting nutrition. I don't know where, but I was like, do you get all your essential vitamins and stuff off jam? She's like, yeah. And I'm like looking at photos, and like she's like in a wheelchair, and then she has like missing an arm, and I'm like, oh yeah.
Certain assorted jams, just straight up, I guess. Can't put it on toast.
Yeah,
Can't
she
do
got a
that.
gluten allergy.
just straight up jam.
But then there's gluten-free bread, and I'm like, how did you pull off this, David Copperfield? Like, how did you get we took
Right.
the gluten out of it? Like, what?
Have you ever tried that shit?
I've
The
tried
gluten-free bread?
there's in the international section where like you'll find like hot sauces and all like a lot of Hispanic stuff. They have a gluten side on the other shelf. And like looking at it, I'm
Yeah.
like, these like gluten-free jerky? I'm like, didn't know jerky had gluten in it.
Yeah, right. It's like you can gluten-free water.
Those cream sodas I was drinking were gluten-free. I was like, well,
Hey, there you
apparently
go.
I'm living a healthier life than drinking a regular soda.
I appreciate you being a big cream soda guy, you know?
Oh,
That's a very underrated soda.
I'm pro cream
Severely
soda.
underrated.
I'm
Like
pro.
no one's drinking cream soda casually anymore, and I think that's wrong.
Dr. Pepper, they made a cream soda version, and I swear to you that's going to up their ratings because every time I go to Walmart, there's no fucking Dr. Pepper cream soda, only the Great Value. But I prefer that. It's got 200 potassium in it. That's like a fucking banana. I'm like, I don't know how that's possible, but every time I like drink one, I have to poop. So I'm like, it helps. It helps.
Damn, 200 potassium. That's pretty serious. Who knew? So basically, soda's good for you, is what I'm hearing.
Honestly,
Good for the poops, anyway.
they talk shit on Sunny D, saying that Sunny D was like really bad for you, but then everybody's saying you need your vitamin D to not get corona. I'm like, so Sunny D is now a conspiracy, and it's got to come back because that'll get you your vitamin D.
Sunny D's been sleeping for a while. I don't think I've heard anything about Sunny D.
See, it's funny. People are going to listen to me say vitamin D and Sunny D, and they're like, what are you talking about? That's vitamin C. And I'm like, no, it's got a sun on the fucking logo. So obviously you're getting your vitamin D as well.
Right. That's just how it fucking works.
So we talk about the internet being false. I once ate 2 boxes of Raisin Bran, and I looked up because my stomach was hurting. And it was just because I ate 2 boxes. But I looked it up. I was like, what's wrong with me? And it said I had stomach cancer. And I freaked out. WebMD screwed me over for like a week.
Oh, dude, WebMD is like one of the worst inventions, I think, in history because we cannot be trusted to look at medical anything. Like that's for a doctor to be doing. I don't need to be like, exactly. As soon as I like, oh, what is this like itch on my leg? You look it up and it's like, you're going to need to get that amputated. That's like the first thing every time. WebMD doesn't take you to the reasonable things first. The first topics are always like stomach cancer. And you're like, oh shit, well, that's it. That's it. I had too many raisins. I'm going to die.
Literally, a doctor, I heard him say that the reason why they think, like doctors always think the worst case scenario is because they're trained to prep for the worst case scenario. And it's usually like the
Right.
most simple thing. But then I was like, back in like the 1700s or the 1900s, like Victorian surgery era, like everything was, you got a splinter, got to chop that foot off. I'm like, I still think we're thinking like that, but now we have pagers and cell phones and shit.
Right, right. So you can like check yourself before you do it. Like the guys like were there with the saw. We're definitely doing this. Oh, just a splinter. Good catch.
You
Good
know
catch.
how common that is that somebody gets mixed up like their surgery things, like they got the wrong person in surgery, and it's like you said we're amputating this guy's foot. Yeah, well, he's already missing a foot. It's like, did they do the surgery early? No, you got the wrong patient.
Right, literally just wrong guy. Doesn't need his foot cut off. That's terrifying, man. That makes you like never want to go to the doctor again.
That's what scares me about surgery is I don't want someone cutting into me because I feel like I know how bad I would fuck up. I just don't want, unless it's Doctor Strange, because I feel like if you can
Right.
survive like the parallel dimension, then you can definitely, fix my organs if I needed it.
Right, right. Yeah, I could see him. Maybe like Gandhi too. I feel like Gandhi probably has a pretty still hand.
We got to cancel.
You don't think so?
He's hungry. He's shaking all the time.
Cancel him.
This is a cancel.
Gandhi.
This is a cancel podcast. Everybody's going to be listening. Like, he's offending Gandhi, even though we tried to cancel him. I'm like, what can I say? He did something amazing. But you know who the real monk is? The one monk on the Rage Against the Machine cover album.
Oh yeah, mm-hmm. That's a classic monk.
That was a real picture of a dude that was so upset with society that he dumped gasoline on himself and lit himself on fire. That is nuts.
Yeah, that's next level shit. We don't have any of that these days.
That really makes you wonder what got him to that point. Did he just get like a bad day or something?
Yeah, like what was like the thing that set him off? Like
The
his
fire
girlfriend
set
like
him
rag
off.
on him
That's
too
what
many times.
that's what set him
the,
off.
the fire did set him off. This is his girlfriend like yelling at him one too many times about not doing the dishes. He was like, "That's it." He grabs the tinder box. He's like, "I'm out of here. It's happening."
Too much shit in this world. I can't worry about dishes.
Enough of these fucking dishes.
There was a joke. There was a joke about they're like, I wonder why I wonder who the artist is that puts all the white tape around the dead bodies in New York City. And I was like, oh, that's not what that's for.
Jesus. Oh my God.
Like, that's an unknown
I could see
artist.
that
I
being
was
an
like,
art installation though.
it is, right? Just body parts all over the wall. It's like a Naked Gun when
Right.
they go in and there's that bomb scenario and it's like there's like tape outlines of people on walls and then like halfway through in the ceiling and stuff. It's like, yep, the guy was found up there, over there, over there,
Yep.
over there.
It was so crazy. He was up there.
That's got to be a terrible job to outline that.
Oh yeah. And like I don't know how, realistic it is in the movie and stuff, but I feel like it's always a pretty rough outline, you know?
You
Like
could
what is really like
spend more time on that. Come on now. Like
yeah, come on. You didn't really get his fingers in there. Like it's really just come on.
Look
are
how
his
far
fingers?
this tape sticks out. It's not even touching his body. Get in there.
Come on, man. Like this is like some serious business. We got to fucking know what happened here. Do a little better job with the tape, will you? For fuck's sake.
Look, his head's over there. You got to get near where they severed it at the spinal cord. You can't work around that. It's going to be off. All the dimensions are off. You're giving me a tape line of a guy that's 6'5" and he's 6'3".
Right. This is bullshit, man.
Redo it. Hold on.
Yeah, redo it.
What?
So how is he like this?
Spend less time vomiting on the corpse and more time taping that body.
Yeah, that's their slogan. That's like day one of training.
Well, Parker, I think I've wasted enough of your time, man.
Didn't waste it at all, man. Happy to be here. This was fun.
I appreciate you for doing the podcast, dude. Please promote your Instagram page, promote the YouTube, promote anything you want so people can find the Cream Team.
Hey, y'all. Yeah, just feel free to check us out, Cream Team Comedy. Primarily on Instagram. We're trying to get YouTube going too. But follow us on Instagram. We got new videos every week and should have a new one coming out real soon. So stay tuned.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Out of the Blank Podcast.